For 10 long years she sat by the window. Her name was Laraka, once a strong and proud alien warrior from the planet Varelia. She had golden skin, sharp blue eyes, and long silver hair braided behind her head. But now she was just the girl. In the wheelchair, forgotten, ignored, left behind. Outside her small room, the training fields were full of life. Alien soldiers trained with energy weapons, jumped over walls, ran in tight formations. Warships flew above, casting shadows over the dirt grounds. And Laraka could only watch. She had watched the world move without her for a decade. Her legs were gone 10 years ago. During a surprise attack by wild desert beasts, she had been crushed under falling rocks while saving 2 children. She survived. But her legs didn't dot at. First, everyone called her brave. The colony honored her with medals and speeches. But after a few months, no one came. No one cared. Warriors don't cry, they said. Warriors don't need help. So they pushed her into a quiet room, rolled her chair near the window, and forgot her. She became a shadow. The young soldiers sometimes whispered behind her back, "She's useless now. Why doesn't she just leave the colony? Look at her. She's like a broken tool." But Laraka stayed silent. She never showed anger, never showed sadness. She simply watched. And waited until he arrived. His name was Mason, a human from Earth. He wasn't a soldier or warrior. He was an engineer, tall, with brown skin and tired green eyes. He came to Varelia to repair broken machines and train young alien mechanics. No one thought much of him. Just another weak human, the alien commanders said. Let him fix wires and sweep the floors. But Mason didn't care about their opinions. He did his work quietly, fixed things faster than expected, and sometimes smiled when no one was looking. One day, Mason passed by Laraka's window. He stopped, their eyes met. She looked away, expecting him to walk on like everyone else. But he didn't. The next day, he came again, and the next. Until finally, he knocked on her door. She didn't answer. So he sat outside the door, leaning against the wall, tools in hand. He didn't talk. He didn't beg. He just sat. After 3 days, she opened the door. "What do you want?" she asked in a quiet voice. Mason looked up. "I want to know your name." "No one wants to know my name." "I do." She stared at him for a moment, then said, "Laraka." He smiled. "Nice to meet you, Laraka. I'm Mason." The next hour passed in silence. But something changed that day. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her like she was real. Over the next few days, Mason came often. Sometimes he brought small tools to fix the broken lights in her room. Sometimes he brought old Earth snacks she had never tasted. And sometimes he just sat and watched the field with her. "Do you miss it?" he asked one day. She didn't answer. "Do you miss walking?" he asked gently. She turned her head and whispered, "Every second." That night, Mason stayed up late in his workshop. His fingers moved fast. Sparks flew. Machines whirred. He looked at a small metal frame he had been hiding for weeks, a forgotten project, a secret gift from Earth. Robotic legs, prototype, illegal, dangerous, but maybe, just maybe, it could work. The next morning, Laraka sat by the window again. The sky was dark with storm clouds. Soldiers marched below. She didn't see Mason coming. He stood behind her and said, "Laraka, do you want to walk again?" She turned slowly. "What?" I said, "Do you want to walk again?" Her hands shook. "No one ever asked me that before. I'm asking now." For the first time in 10 years, hope entered her heart, but fear followed it quickly. What if I fall? What if it doesn't work? Mason stepped closer. "Then we try again. I won't give up." "Not on you." She stared at him, eyes wide. His voice was calm, strong, real. He wasn't like the others. Laraka blinked. A tear ran down her cheek. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's try." And in that moment, the girl who was once forgotten became someone to believe in again. The storm had passed, but something stronger had started inside her. Laraka sat in silence. Her fingers gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Her mind replayed Mason's voice again and again. Do you want to walk again? That question had shattered something deep inside her. No alien had asked her that. Not even once in 10 years. They only gave her soft looks, fake smiles, and polite words that meant nothing. But this human, this stranger, had looked straight into her eyes and spoken like she still mattered. She didn't know how to answer. The next morning, she found Mason in his small workroom. It was messy tools, scattered, wires hanging, strange earth gadgets buzzing. He was hunched over a glowing frame, working fast, sweat on his forehead. He didn't hear her roll in. What is that? She asked softly. Mason looked up, surprised, but smiled. This? A pair of legs. She raised an eyebrow. For who? For you, Laraka blinked. You can't be serious. I am, he said, tightening a bolt. They're based on Earth military exosuit tech. Light, fast, and powered by neural links. They connect to the nerves just above where your legs used to be. But the colony banned robotic limb implants, she said slowly. It's dangerous, illegal. Mason paused. So is leaving a hero in a chair to rot. That silence returned. Then he pulled out a small case. Inside was a thin silver band with blinking lights. This goes around your spine. It lets your brain talk to the legs. It's not perfect. There might be pain, you might fall, but it's a start. Laraka looked at the parts. They didn't look like much. Wires, metal, blinking lights. But to her, they looked like hope. I haven't stood in 10 years, she said. Mason nodded. That ends today. He helped her onto the medical table. Her body trembled. Sweat formed on her forehead. She had faced beasts, war, even fire. But this was different. This was hope. Hope was scarier than any monster. Mason worked fast, but gently. He cleaned the connection points on her spine. His hands didn't shake. He'd clearly done this before. Have you tested this? She asked. He smiled faintly. Once, on myself. Nearly lost my foot. That's not comforting. You asked for honesty, not comfort. She laughed for the first time in years. The moment arrived. Mason pressed the activation button. The legs clicked, hissed, and locked in place. Tiny lights blinked down the sides of the sleek silver limbs. The power core hummed. Now, he said, think about standing. Not your arms, not your back, just think stand. She closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing. Then pain. Sharp, burning pain shot through her lower body. She gasped. The legs sparked, trembled. And slowly, they began to move. The table lowered. She screamed, not in fear, but in effort. Her muscles burned. Her mind raced. Then she stood, unsteady, shaking. But standing. Her breathing was fast. Her heart pounded. The room was silent. Mason stepped back, eyes wide. You're doing it. Laraka looked down. Her metal legs glowed faintly. She could see her reflection in the polished floor. Standing for the first time in 10 years. Her voice cracked. I forgot how tall I was. Mason laughed. You look taller than any of them out there. But the joy didn't last long. A loud knock hit the workshop door. Open this door, immediately, shouted a voice. It was Captain Revox 1 of the alien commanders. We know what you're doing in there. Mason's face changed. They found out. Laraka looked at him. What now? He grabbed her hand. Now you walk. She hesitated. You said it yourself. No one ever gave you a choice, he said. I'm giving you one now. Walk or hide. Your legs, your life. The door banged. Again. She took a breath. Then a step. It was shaky. Then another. Then another. Each step was like thunder inside her. She reached the door. Just as it broke open, Several alien guards stood there, weapons raised. But they froze when they saw her Lyrica walking toward them. One whispered, "Impossible." Captain Revox growled, "Shut it down. That tech is forbidden." But she didn't stop walking. She walked past them, head-high, metal legs gleaming like a queen returning to her throne, and the soldiers didn't dare stop her. The crate had no name, no number, no symbol. It sat deep under the colony's tech vaults, sealed with 4 ancient locks. Dust covered its sides, cobwebs wrapped around its corners. It had not been touched in over 20 years. No alien dared to go near it. They said it held broken human tech machines that made minds scream and bodies burn. Others said it was cursed, that anyone who opened it would disappear. But Mason wasn't like the others. He had already seen what forbiddance meant on this planet. It meant abandonment. It meant fear. It meant leaving someone like Lyrica in a chair for 10 years, when help had been there all along. That night, Mason walked into the underground vault alone. The door hissed open. A cold, stale wind greeted him. Lights flickered above his head. The air smelled like rust and memory. He walked past rows of dusty equipment, broken drones, melted weapons, outdated medical units. Then he saw it, the crate. Large, black, heavy. He ran his hand along the top. Still. Warm, he whispered. Still alive. Flashback. 2 months ago, back on Earth, a dying scientist had slipped Mason a small chip. "If you ever find someone worth saving," he said, "use this." The chip had led Mason to Virelia. The chip had whispered codes in his dreams. The chip had one purpose: open the crate. Back in the vault, Mason slid the chip into the side panel. For a moment, nothing. Then click. One lock opened, then another, and another. And the last, the crate released a long breath of air, like something waking up after centuries of sleep. Inside, it wasn't a weapon. It was something more dangerous. Hope. There were parts, long silver rods with glowing circuits, gel packs pulsing with synthetic muscle, a brain-computer interface shaped like a thin halo, and at the very center, a handwritten note. Mason picked it up. Prototype model, V-limbs Generation 0, use with caution. They don't just move the body, they remember the pain. He stared at the note, then at the legs. Then he smiled. "These will work," he whispered. "They have to." 3 nights passed. Mason worked without sleep. He built silently, only stopping to check Lyrica's old medical scans. He adjusted the size, the nerve link range, the strength level. The tech tried to fight him. Wires shocked his fingers. The core overheated twice. At one point, the limbs moved on their own, crushing a metal bench like paper. But he didn't stop, because every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lyrica's face when she took her first step. And that was enough. Meanwhile, the colony grew restless. Lyrica's walk had shocked everyone. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a crime. Commander Revox held secret meetings with the High Council. "If we allow humans to change our kind," he warned, "we lose control." He ordered Mason to be watched, followed, threatened. But Mason kept working, because the crate was just the beginning. What was inside was much bigger than robotic legs. On the 5th night, Mason brought the finished upgrade to Lyrica's room. She was sitting near the window again, but this time, she wasn't looking outside. She was looking at her reflection. Standing tall in the polished glass. She turned as he entered. "You look like you haven't slept." He chuckled. "Sleep is overrated." She saw what he held in his hands. "Is that her legs?" he said. "Smarter, faster, stronger. And," he paused, "they'll learn with you, every movement, every step. They'll adapt to your thoughts." She stood, slowly. Her current legs hissed with old energy. "You stole them, didn't you?" she asked. He smiled. "I borrowed them from the past, for your future." She stepped forward. "Then let's see what the future feels like. As he installed the new limbs, Mason whispered something no one else had ever told her. You're not broken, Laraka. You were just waiting for the right tools. But far above, hidden in the dark sky, a small spy drone sent one message to the council. The human has opened the crate. And somewhere deep in the core of the colony, the execution order was signed. The metal floor was cold beneath her feet, but for the first time in 10 years, she could feel it, not with skin, not with nerves, but with something deeper. Something. Buried inside her memory. Laraka stood still. Her new legs, smooth and silver, pulsed with quiet energy. The joints glowed softly in the dark. The neural bands around her spine blinked in sync with her heartbeat. She wasn't just standing on machines. She was standing on a promise. Just 1 hour earlier, Mason had finished installing the final upgrades. You might feel pressure at first, he said. The legs will test your balance. She nodded. Inside, her heart beat like thunder. I haven't stood since I was 19, she whispered. What if I fall? Mason looked into her eyes. Then I'll catch you. Now the moment had come. The room was silent, except for a low humming sound like a sleeping beast waking inside the legs. Then, movement. Her fingers twitched. Her spine tensed. Sparks ran down her back. And her left leg moved. Not far, just a few inches. But it moved. Her breathing quickened. Sweat formed on her neck. Again, Mason said gently. Let the legs listen to your thoughts. She focused. Stepped. Her right leg shifted forward, slow, shaky, heavy. Step. The left followed. A full stride. Then another. Her body swayed her. Knees nearly buckled, but she didn't fall, because Mason was already there. Arms out, ready but not touching. You're doing it, he said. You're walking, Laraka gasped. Her body shook, not from pain but from something she hadn't felt in years. Victory. Tears filled her eyes. Her hands opened wide, like wings. She stood straight. Tall, proud. I forgot how the world looks from up here, she whispered. Mason smiled. It missed you. But outside, the world wasn't smiling. Commander Revox watched through a secret wall camera. She's activated the full prototype. He growled. That human has crossed the line. His advisor stepped forward. Shall we prepare the enforcers? Revox nodded. Bring her in alive. The human? Do what you want. Back in her room, Laraka took her 5th step. Then her 6th. Then her 10th. Every step echoed with power. But it wasn't just the legs. It was her. She had chosen to rise. Suddenly, the door burst open. 3 armored guards stormed in, weapons raised. Their red visors glowed in the dark. Laraka of House Virelia, the lead guard barked. You are under arrest for illegal use of human weaponry and treason against the colony. Mason stepped between them. She's done nothing wrong, he said. She's broken the law. She's walking. For a second, no one moved. Then Laraka did. She stepped forward. The guards turned their weapons toward her, but she didn't stop. The ground trembled beneath her metal feet. With every step, her body grew steadier, stronger. I spent 10 years. In silence, she said. 10 years in a chair, forgotten by the same colony I bled for. Now her voice rose. I am not a machine. I am not a crime. I am a warrior. And I have returned. The guards hesitated. The leader clicked his cum. She's resisting. Permission to engage? Static crackled. Then a cold voice replied. Permission granted. They raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Laraka ran. Faster than they expected. Faster than anyone thought possible. She kicked the wall, leapt over a desk, and vanished through the window like a lightning flash. Outside, rain poured from the night sky. She landed on the ground, rolled, and stood up without help. Mason followed close behind. We can't stay here, he said. Then let's run, she replied. Not in fear, but in freedom. Asterisk. The sky above Varelia turned red that morning, not from war, but from fear. The High Council had issued a rare code black, the kind of order used only for the most dangerous threats. Except this time, the threat wasn't a monster or a rebel. It was a girl who could finally walk. Her name is Liraka, the High Elder said coldly, staring at the glowing screen. She was once our pride. Now she is our shame. Shall we destroy the human? Another asked. No, not yet, the Elder replied. Let her run. Let her taste freedom. Then crush her hope in front of everyone. But Liraka didn't run out of fear. She ran out of defiance. The wind screamed through her silver hair as her robotic legs carried her across the high cliffs beyond the colony. Behind her, Mason struggled to keep up, gasping. You could slow down, you know. He shouted. She laughed a real, full laugh. 10 years in a chair, Mason. I'm not slowing down for anything. Suddenly, red lights blinked in the distance. Drones. Dozens of them, dropping from the sky like mechanical vultures. Sharp wings, red sensors. Orders to capture or kill. Mason grabbed her arm. We need cover. But Liraka stepped forward, planting her feet wide, sparks rising from her legs. No, we stop running now. The first drone dove fast. Too fast. It fired a bolt of energy. Liraka. A dodge left her movements almost unnatural, too fast for normal reflexes. Her new legs responded instantly, learning, adapting. The second drone came. She jumped, twisted midair, and kicked it straight into the rocks below. Sparks exploded. Mason blinked. You're getting better, she smirked. I'm just getting started. The fight lasted only minutes. When it ended, the skies were clear, and the ground was littered with drone wreckage. Liraka stood tall, chest rising with every breath. Her legs glowed softly. She had just fought off a High Council drone unit. And won. But far above, in the council tower, the elders watched silently. She's adapting faster than expected, one said. Should we call in the hunter class? Another whispered. No, the High Elder said, his eyes narrow. We will send her a message. He pressed a button. That night, as Liraka and Mason hid inside an old power station on the edge of the desert, a message played across every screen. In the colony, to the people of Varelia, a former warrior, once honored, now walks with stolen legs and human lies. She is not your hero. She is your enemy. Liraka stared at the screen. They used her old training photo, then showed footage of her destroying the drones. Mason clenched his fists. They're turning everyone against you. No, she said quietly. They're scared. She stood and looked out at the stars. I was left behind for 10 years, she whispered. Not because I was weak, but because they feared what I'd become if I ever stood again. Mason stepped beside her. And what have you become? She turned, eyes glowing like fire. Something they can't control. At the edge of the colony, families watched the message in silence. Children asked, is she bad now? Old warriors looked at each other and said nothing. Some remembered her saving lives. And some started to question. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, all because one human believed she still had worth. And she ran, not from death, but toward something greater. The earth remembered her pain. When Liraka stepped onto the black desert plains where it all happened, the ground itself seemed to whisper her name, like it hadn't forgotten the moment she screamed. Crushed beneath the rocks. 10 years ago, she was carried away from this place, bleeding and broken. Now, she had walked back. Mason stood beside her, scanning the cliffs with his visor. You're sure this is where it happened? He asked. Liraka didn't answer. She just stared ahead. The rocks, the heat, the smell of dust and old blood. This was where her legs were taken, where her warrior life ended, where no one came back for her except a human. 10 years too late. She took another step. Her robotic feet sank slightly into the sand, and tiny whirs echoed from the joints. Each motion was smoother now, sharper. The legs had learned her rhythm. They had become part of her, but they hadn't faced this yet. The creature that destroyed her still lived out here, and it had returned. Mason adjusted his scanner. I've picked up something. Large, moving. Fast. Before he could say more, the ground beneath them shook once, then again. A distant rumble rolled across the desert, like thunder under the sand. Loraka narrowed her eyes. I know that sound. From behind the cliffs, it emerged taller than a house, covered in black armor, 6 legs pounding the ground like hammers. Its yellow eyes glowed like fire. Its mouth opened with a roar that shook the skies. The burrower, the beast that crushed her once. Mason backed away. We need to go. This thing is built to kill tanks. But Loraka stepped forward. A knot. Running this time. The burrower let out another roar and charged out. Its feet tore into the desert as it moved. Faster than anything that size should. But Loraka didn't move. She waited. 5 seconds. 4.3. Now. She leapt aside with perfect timing, her new legs launching her high into the air. The burrower slammed into the rocks where she had stood, crashing into stone and roaring in frustration. Mason gasped. That was insane. She landed smoothly, sand bursting around her feet. I've waited 10 years to do that. The burrower turned. Its eyes locked onto her. It remembered. Loraka stepped forward. You didn't break me, she said coldly. You made me stronger. The creature roared again and swung a massive leg at her. She ducked, slid under it, and drove her robotic foot into its belly, sending a ripple of force through its thick shell. It stumbled. The beast had never been hurt like that before. Now it was angry. It lunged. Raka jumped, flipped, and kicked its jaw mid-air. Sparks flew. Blood sprayed. Mason watched in shock. She's not just walking, he whispered. She's winning. The burrower tried one last strike, its claw crashing down toward her head. But this time, she didn't dodge. She caught the claw mid-air. Robotic strength in her arms and legs held firm, her entire body shaking. Dust flying around her like a storm. And with a loud scream, she twisted and snapped the beast's claw in two. The burrower howled in pain, backed away, and collapsed. Then, silence. It was over. Loraka walked slowly to its giant head. It was still breathing barely. She knelt beside it and whispered, 10 years ago, I begged for someone to save me. Now I saved myself. With one final punch to its core, the burrower's lights dimmed and gone. Mason rushed up, still shocked. You did it. You actually did it. Loraka turned to him, eyes glowing with pride. No, she said. We did it. And behind them, a silent drone hovered, recording every second, streaming it directly to the High Council. And to the entire colony. That night, the people of Virelia didn't sleep. They watched her defeat the monster. They saw her strength, her bravery, her heart. And for the first time in years, they remembered who she really was. Asterisk. It wasn't a march. It was a statement. Loraka didn't sneak back into the colony. She walked slow, proud, unshaken, with the burrower's massive head dragging behind her like a trophy of war. Its broken jaw left a trail in the dust. Its glowing yellow eyes were now dark. Its death was not just victory. It was proof that she was no longer the girl. In the chair, she was a force. The gates of the colony opened without a word. No guard dared to stop her. Crowds gathered. Hundreds, then thousands. Aliens of every kind stood in silence as she stepped into the main plaza, her metal legs humming softly beneath her long cloak. Mothers lifted their children to see her. Old warriors bowed their heads. Young recruits whispered, "Is that really her?" Loraka walked to the center and dropped the beast's head at the foot of the High Council steps. The ground shook. Dust rose, and still she stood. From above, the High Elders stared down at her in disbelief. She brought it here. Alive? One asked. No, said another. She brought it dead. Commander Rivak stepped forward, armor shining, voice cold. This changes nothing. You still broke the law. I broke the silence. Laraka interrupted. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a blade. I broke the lie that I was finished. Just because I couldn't walk. I broke the chains that you placed on people. Like me. The crowd murmured. She turned to face them, not the council. I was forgotten for 10 years. You all walked past me, called me useless. But one human looked at me, and saw more. Mason stepped from the back, quiet, watching her. He didn't need to say anything. This was her moment. Laraka reached up and pulled off the neural ring that powered her legs. The lights dimmed. The hum faded. And yet, she didn't fall. She stood tall on her own. I no longer need these legs to stand, she said, because now, I stand in your hearts. A hush fell over the crowd. Then someone clapped. Then another. And then everyone did. A roar of approval, of unity, of change. The High Council couldn't stop it now. The law had been broken. Yes, but a greater truth had been restored. She wasn't just a warrior anymore. She was a symbol, a bridge between alien and human, between broken and rebuilt, between silence and strength. Later that night, under the twin moons of Varelia, the people gathered again, this time to honor her. They gave her a new name, not one from her old rank, not from her past, but from what she had become, warrior of two worlds, a name whispered in joy, a name shouted in respect, a name carved into the stone walls of the colony forever. Mason stood beside her at the ceremony. Not bad for someone they left behind, he said. She smiled. Not bad for someone who opened a crate. He laughed. And together, they looked at the stars, not as a human and an alien, but as two souls who proved that courage, kindness, and belief can rebuild anything, even a life.